how do we handle teaching these topics that have kind of come up today around race and justice and history in places of political hostility, like red states, or places where CRT is getting banned, without being accused of indoctrination? So if Dr. Jeffries, you wanted to kind of take us off.
Yeah, no, certainly. And that's a very important question, especially given the moment in which we are living, the context of the times. I think first it's important just to acknowledge that that some of the issues that we're facing surrounding those issues are just politically driven. I mean, this is politics weaving its way into education. So no matter what you do, and no matter how honest and how fair your approach is, you will be accused of doing something untoward. So you're not going to be able to convince that group of people who are targeting you for what you do. That being said, so that means, I don't know if that's the 4%, 4.5% that Dr. Nucci was talking about. Somebody's in there, but they've decided that what you do is just wrong. So we're not going to worry about them because there's no pleasing them, and we shouldn't have to lean into that. The other thing that's important, though, that you can do, especially because there's so much misinformation, is to be open and clear about what you're doing and to talk about the importance of what we're doing in terms of sort of democracy, in terms of these broad themes that it must be hard to challenge or to question. If you want to be on the opposite side of teaching good governance, teaching political understanding, teaching democracy, well, there's nothing I can do for you on that front. But that gets us away from saying, well, I'm going to lean into this, and whether it's critical race theory or this, that, and the other. No, I'm teaching about democracy. I'm teaching about the way the government sort of evolved and government functioning and understanding. And that, I think, allows people to sort of move away from the hot button political issues or the politically charged terminology, and allows you just to lean into the good work that you were doing.
Thank you. And Dr. Nucci, do you want to add anything to that?
I would go back to something Professor Aldrich said earlier in the day, which is supports what we just heard, which is to, show them the goods. He said, it is what it is. We don't need to back away from presenting what actually happened in the historical record. And that's, I think, consistent with what Professor Jeffries just said.
Thanks. And a question for you, Dr. Jeffries. What really qualifies as CRT or critical race theory?
Well, if you had never heard of what critical race theory was before January of 2020, there's a good chance that what you think it is, it ain't now. Although it's been around for 2.5 decades, more, almost 4 decades, 40 years or so, right? I mean, one way to think of what critical race theory is quite simple. One is a legal framework that came out of law school. So if your kid is learning critical race theory, congratulations, because they're in law school. But critical race theory is simply taking seriously that race and racism has shaped the contours of American life in the past and in the present. That's it. That's all it is, right? That it continues to shape the contours of our life, and not just the lives of African Americans or people of color, but of all folk. And that it isn't that the product of racism or the manifestation of racism isn't simply a function of individual bad behavior, but that it is embedded in the way our society has evolved systems and structures. So it's really not that complicated, right? And it certainly isn't what we would hear on Fox News. And so just simply saying, it's just taking race and racism seriously as factors in our lives, I think is enough to get you sort of that clear understanding of what it is.